Yes.
Councillor Elaine Cowan.
Here.
Councillor Maureen Mackay.
Present, Christie.
Thank you. Councillor Ian Linton.
Here.
Councillor Graham Barton.
Here, thanks.
Councillor Barry Douglas.
Here.
Councillor Neil Ingram.
Here, thanks.
Councillor Claire Maitland.
Here.
I have an apology from Councillor Drew Wilson. And do we have Dr. David Lewis?
Yeah.
Reverend Harriet Johnston.
Here, thanks.
Babs Mowat. Yep, see Babs there, thanks. Hazel Malacotti.
Yes, thanks.
And Jackie Livingston.
Yes, I'm here.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Christine. Okay, just go through the usual declaration of interest. I don't think there's anything obvious. If you want to declare anything. Okay, and go to item 2, and that's East Ayrshire Community Learning Development Framework Review 21-24 and East Ayrshire Community Learning and Development Plan 24-27. Claire over there is going to introduce that.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, members. This report provides an update on the performance of the East Ayrshire Community Learning and Development Framework 2021-2024 and seeks approval from Cabinet for the new Community Learning and Development Plan 2024-27, which has been prepared and endorsed by the Communities Partnership, comprising all partners delivering community learning and development across East Ayrshire. Members, I'm presenting this report to you today on behalf of Suzanne Clark, the Service Manager, Vibrant Communities, who has CLD lead for the authority and who chairs the Communities Partnership in this role. The paper sets out the background in paragraphs 3 to 7, and I know members are very familiar with this format, this being the 4th CLD framework to come forward to Chamber. So I'd highlight Cabinet's approval of the 2021 to 2024 framework on the 6th of October 2021, and that our local approach continues to be prepared in response to the requirements for Community Learning and Development Scotland Regulations 2013. These placed a duty on every education authority to coordinate and publish a community learning and development plan, started in September 2015 and every 3 years thereafter. The regulations place an additional legal requirement on local authorities to coordinate and plan community learning and development provision. Partners providing community learning and development activity are expected to work together along with learners and communities to audit needs, strengths and opportunities and build programmes of learning and development to meet local needs. The Communities Partnership, therefore, was established for this purpose, bringing together partners from the local authority, higher and further education, the Third Sector Interface, Police Scotland, Scottish Fire and Rescue, the Department of Work and Pensions, housing associations, CORA, and other local partners and voluntary organisations. Paragraphs 8 to 11 set out the 2021 to 2024 framework development priorities and key highlights in terms of delivery, with the full detail at Appendix A. Members, I would particularly highlight the breadth of activity undertaken by partners that's set out at paragraph 10, spanning further facilitation of community action and local place planning, our continued focus on employability, which has been further enhanced through the Local Employability Partnership and the 2 Skills and Learning Centres, SL33 and SL66, as well as the work of the Council's Employability Service. On to multi-agency work to improve support for tenancies, tackle antisocial behaviour and poverty, responding in partnership across agencies together with local community organisations to the cost of living crisis, providing wellbeing support to communities, particularly around suicide awareness, community health and activity, and social isolation and loneliness, and our continuing strategic partnership-based delivery of youth work with Yet World, The Zone, Barnardo's and the wider third sector. Detailed in paragraphs 12 through 20 is the positive feedback all of this work has had from HIME inspection teams during 2 visits over the course of the 2021 to 2024 framework. The first in May 2022 was a thematic review commissioned by the Scottish Government to understand the work of the community learning and development sector to support children, young people, families and communities through COVID-19 recovery. Members, just some of the areas of positive focus which are set out in full at paragraph 13 that were noted in this inspection were a clear demonstration of effective partnership working, further improved from a strong foundation by working as we did through COVID, a clear focus on addressing community need as the impetus for widening CLD reach, good use of technologies to support continued learning during the pandemic, and clear evidence of the learner voice in the work being done and it being used to inform the content and learning itself. Inspectors visited East Ayrshire again in November 2023 to undertake a community learning and development progress visit, and the details are provided from paragraphs 15 to 20. The team from Education Scotland spoke to learners, community representatives, CLD leaders, managers, staff, volunteers and other key stakeholders. They evaluated the effectiveness of the community partnerships approach to self-evaluation and planning for improvement, and inspected progress made against identified priorities in our 2021 to 2024 framework through two key lenses of how effective is the leadership of the local authority and their CLD partners in improving outcomes, and how well does the performance of the local authority and their CLD partners demonstrate positive impact. Again, members, the inspection findings for East Ayrshire were significantly positive, and these areas of progress are set out in detail across 18 bullets at paragraphs 16 and 17 of the report. One recommendation was made for consideration, described at paragraph 19. So members, if I can provide some detail, it's up to the local authority to decide how best to develop a CLD plan, which could be a standalone plan or incorporated into other planning frameworks. The last 3 community learning and development frameworks have been developed as part of the community plan reviews following Cabinet approval in 2014. Excuse me. The report from the progress visit recommended that we consider producing a separate plan that would ensure the broad range of CLD activity, as I've described this morning, is represented and reported on appropriately. It also recommended that this would benefit from being more measurable so that partners and staff can see where their work contributes to improving outcomes. The community's partnership considered this approach to be beneficial and was minded to evolve our approach and produce a community learning and development plan for the period of 2024 to 2027 to meet these recommendations, which is before you today. Further preparation of that CLD plan for 2024-27 gave cognizance to the recommendations set out in the National Review of Community Learning and Development published in June 2024 and detailed at paragraph 21 of your report. Similarly, paragraphs 22 to 24 detail the close links between children's services and CLD to provide a holistic approach to supporting young people and families. CLD focuses on fostering lifelong learning, community engagement and personal development, which complements the objectives of children's services. This synergy ensures that initiatives are aligned to support educational attainment, personal development and community involvement, nurturing a supportive environment where children and families can thrive. As you'll be aware, East Ayrshire received notification on the 16th of September that the Care Inspectorate, Education Scotland, His Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary in Scotland and Healthcare Improvement Scotland will undertake a joint inspection of children's services for children and young people at risk of harm. And in recognition of that alignment and synergy, as I've described, CLD partners will clearly form an integral part of this inspection. Paragraphs 25 to 27 focus on the new CLD plan for the next 3 years, and it's provided in detail at Appendix B. In preparation for the development of the plan, engagement started in May 24 with the community's partnership, and engagement with partners, staff, volunteers and learners took place between May and July 2024. The community's partnership met in September, endorsing the CLD plan that's before you today. Partners have identified 7 improvement priorities for the next 3 years within the new plan, detailed at paragraph 26, and these drive the activity within its action plan alongside our strategic local priorities. The implications are set out at paragraphs 28 through 40, and I particularly note the governance implications at paragraph 35 and 36, which are that this report meets the requirements of the regulations for community learning and development activity and its planning, and that the Leisure and Cultural Review presented to Council in June 24 proposes transfer of vibrant communities to the East Ayrshire Leisure Trust. The report notes that the ongoing leadership of the CLD plan will be considered within the realms of concluding that review and implementation. Subject to approval today, review and monitoring arrangements will continue to be through the Communities Partnership and be presented to Cabinet annually, and the plan will be graphic designed before publication, posted online and submitted to Scottish Government in line with our requirements. In conclusion, members, East Ayrshire's community learning and development partners continue to deliver well together and have a positive impact, as you've heard, across local communities and for our residents. And with that, I would turn you to the recommendations at paragraph 2, which are to note the review of the priorities of the 2021 to 2024 framework in Appendix A, approve the change from producing a framework of activity to producing a plan, approve the community learning and development plan as set out at Appendix B, and otherwise note the report. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks very much, Claire, for that report. I think it's an excellent report. There's loads in there. Can I just maybe mention one thing? Maybe I've got a wee question as well. Just for in terms of children's services, you know, for myself and Councillor Mackay, Maureen, and I met the First Minister yesterday, where a number of our voluntary organisations were able to showcase just what we're doing to try and collaboratively to tackle child poverty, and I think that absolutely continues to be and should be continue to be a main priority for this council. But it would be great, you know, maybe I don't know if other members could just see some of the benefits of some of these organisations. I just appreciate just how much and the extent of some of the work that we're doing with the third sector, and I don't know where we can showcase that, but it's just a passing thought. And just a wee kind of specific question on page 21, we mentioned the non-recurrent offending and the bonding visits with non-recurrent offenders and their children. And I think, you know, it's a project that was very innovative in its day 2 or 3 years ago. And I'm just wondering, the regime in the prison, we've now got a change in how the prison's getting run, you know, and I'm just wanting a wee bit of kind of reassurance that this work's going to continue, even with the prison population possibly expanding, because I think this work's absolutely very vital. So just a couple of points for me.
Thank you, Chair. And yeah, happy to confirm that it's a statutory obligation as regards the question you've raised, and that work will absolutely continue. Can give that commitment.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, and just to reiterate that stuff around about the visits and child visits, I've experienced them myself. They're absolutely fantastic, and I really do hope that continues. I'm just going to pick up a couple of highlights. This is a fantastic paper, and I think again emphasises the work and the importance of working with the third sector through SL Marjorie and her team at SL 33 and 66. Some fantastic work in relation to employability going along with that. Police Scotland, the great work that we're doing with them with the trading standards again. And some of that work is really fantastic and far-reaching. But for me, I'd really like to be attributing this one to Natalie Carmichael from the Nest, who was recently chosen to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Scottish Parliament, the local MSP, as our hero. She does some fantastic and amazing work in it, the Nest, and really goes beyond the stuff to try and break down the stigma that exists within communities. I had an invite to go to the Breakfast Club this morning. Unfortunately, I knew where I'd rather be was in here, but I had to decline that offer. It's a fantastic room to get in the buzz when you can get 30 to 50 people for all walks of life in the community in there. It's a great place to get into. So in recognition of the work Natalie does, just once again, just repeat and show my appreciation for the work that her and the team do in there.
Thanks, Jim. Okay. Maureen.
you very much. And yes, if I could just pick up and echo, and this is not something that we have just decided to do. This is something that we have consistently done. And I thank you, Claire, for your explanation and how it's laid out in the paper in terms of taking us way back to the place that we often don't want to go to. And that is the work that we actually did throughout the pandemic and what we actually continued to do and have actually built on there. And I'm looking at what's actually on page 40 here, and that is really looking at the guiding principles. And of course, you know, I have always been on the margins for very many years of community learning and development in much of the work that I've done prior to joining the council and beyond. But if I look at what's actually laid out here, in terms of self-determination, looking at inclusion, looking at empowerment, working collaboratively, and looking at the promotion of lifelong learning. And that really is so much of the practice and the work that we consistently have done year in, year out across East Ayrshire. This is not something new. And again, it is about looking, and it's every corner of East Ayrshire. And yesterday, as Leader has made reference to, the visit that we had gave us the opportunity to have those disparate parts of East Ayrshire actually all in the one room. And I think that's the aspect that's actually impressive there. It's not just the very populated aspects of East Ayrshire that we look at these principles and how we're actually delivering. We're looking at that throughout East Ayrshire, and I think that's actually what makes us unique, and I think that's something, our determination to do that is actually what we take forward with us. And again, we know right from the start when we were talking about setting up health and social care partnerships, how important it was for us to make sure that children's services were actually embedded in that all of the way through. And I think what we're seeing now is we're seeing some of that work becoming more mature and in a place where we can actually move on from that work. And I'm really glad, I have to say, that some of the national agenda has actually caught up with us. And, you know, we had that opportunity, I think, yesterday to make that point with the First Minister. You know, we really have been in some ways at the forefront of all of this because our thinking about this has not been piecemeal. We haven't just tacked things on. We've had a comprehensive view of how we actually want to take things forward and do things in East Ayrshire. And I think any new developments that we experience in terms of any of our staff working within community learning and development, we will see that continuity, and it's across the whole of East Ayrshire. And I think these are the two things that are so important. And I completely support the view that child poverty really does have to be our defining mission and the work that we are absolutely focused on within East Ayrshire. Without that, frankly, we do not have the future that we aspire to.
Thanks, Maureen. I appreciate the comments. Yeah. Anyone else? Oh, David, oh, your mic's off. That's you.
Thank you, Chair. I welcome much of the report, and it's good to see what you're doing in Ayrshire. My one sadness is that the church doesn't seem to be involved in this, at least not from the reports, and yet the church shares your vision for creating better society and better community. And I just wonder whether there could be some dialogue going forward between the church and the council. I realise the church has a lot of responsibility as well. But I have a foot in both camps, so I will try and give you the church as well. But I'd like to see that going forward.
Thanks, David. I did see the Howard Centre being involved in some of the projects there, but I would take your point maybe and ask Claire to respond.
Thanks, Chair, and thank you, Dr. Lewis, for the question. And I think it's a fair reflection that we've perhaps referenced and recognised the vital partnership working that we've done with faith-based organisations more in previous reports around COVID and pandemic recovery than in this one today. However, a number of these groups are fully involved at various levels through our community action plan and other networks. But we can absolutely take it forward in terms of that membership of the communities partnership as an open one that we can look for going forward as to how the faith-based groups locally are involved in that.
Ayrshire comes to mind as well. There's quite a few out there that we do heavily rely on and support.
Harriet Johnson, also a faith representative here. Yes, just to say that we do have church networks in the region, such as the Fellowship of Kilmarnock Churches, and I know that we'd be very happy to look at how we explicitly communicate and work with you. Yeah, I would be very keen to see how we can take that forward together. I noticed that Vibrant Communities is moving to a different service, and I just hope that that will continue to enable Vibrant Communities to be sustaining this excellent work that seems to be going on. Thank you.
Maureen, yeah.
And I think perhaps just to add on and make explicit in terms of and perhaps give some reassurances to our church representatives that they really have not been forgotten. And in some of our discussions and some of our thinking in terms of our place-based work, we have specifically made approaches and reaches out to the uniformed organisations, many of whom are directly associated with the work of local faith-based organisations. So I think it's important to underline that. I know that I have worked explicitly with Claire identifying that these are groups in terms of some of our development opportunities, some of our funding opportunities to be specifically approached to ensure that there actually is that inclusivity. And I hope that gives you some reassurance that really that has not been a sector that has been forgotten.
Absolutely. Rich, you want to come in?
Thank you, Leader, and good morning, members. Members really appreciate the very positive and constructive comments in relation to the report. Just to add a couple of things in addition to Claire's presentation. I think the timing of this report before members today is really helpful, certainly in terms of the impending Children's Services Inspection, as Claire's mentioned. And the range of different activities and services that are provided by this team link very much with the outcomes of the promised UN Convention on the Rights of the Child and GIRFEC and critical themes as part of that inspection process. So I think that's really helpful. And secondly, just picking up on the point that's been mentioned in relation to the report that will be before members on the 31st of October in relation to the future direction of travel. Should that be approved by members, I think part of the paper that's been presented, and particularly in relation to para 19, we talk about impacts and measurable outcomes. I can confirm that there's been a significant amount of work done in relation to the future of this service within the arm's length operating model as proposed. And part of that paper will include an impact measurement framework, which comes back to that question that members often ask us in this very chamber of so what, what are we actually achieving in terms of the service that's been provided. So I think we're in a really strong position. I think the paper's strong and it allows us with a real solid platform to move forward in terms of the proposed direction of travel in the future. Thanks, Leader.
Thanks, Rich. Anyone else? Okay, no, we've given that a fair hearing. Very good report, loads in it. Can we agree the recommendations? Yeah, and we're now going to the item 3, which is a workforce strategy action plan. And I've got Donna Nielsen for this. Donna?
Yep, thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. So The Workforce Strategy Action Plan, the purpose of this report is detailed at paragraph 1 and is to provide you with an update on the progress of the Workforce Strategy Action Plan covering the period up to July 2024 and to provide some high-level details of next steps. In terms of background, that's covered by paragraphs 3 to 5 and advises members of an initial update that was provided on the 6 workforce priorities as part of the wider Council Strategic Framework Review, and where a detailed action plan and summary of the work being undertaken under each priority was provided. A copy of the action plan update is provided as Appendix 1 to this report. In terms of the current position, that's covered from paragraph 6 to 52, and members will find details of the update for the 6 main priorities and the actions for the year ahead. So in terms of priority 1, investing in young people, that's covered by paragraphs 6 to 11, and this details the review of the apprenticeship framework, the careers fairs that have been held, supporting young people into career pathways, and details the success of the Jobs and Training Fund programme, as well as providing some details of young people who have moved into jobs as a result of the apprenticeship or graduate intern role that they've undertaken. Actions for the year ahead in relation to priority 1 are covered by paragraphs 12 to 15, and this includes providing more in-house training, broadening the scope of our graduate apprenticeship offering, and rolling out of the apprenticeship framework, considering the impact of fair work rates of pay. Moving on to priority 2, which covers the review and update of an employment framework. This is covered at paragraph 16 to 21 and includes an update of new posts to support our digital transformation, for example, supporting the development of a mobile HR app, the development of our employee support and report hub, which was recently brought in front of members, and the ongoing work of the People and Culture Equality Forum. And within that, it should be noted that we have reviewed the Council's anti-racism statement, and a copy of that draft statement is included as Appendix 2 to the report. In addition, in terms of actions for the year ahead, they're covered by paragraphs 22 to 25 and include the rollout of the mobile HR app, a revised equal pay statement, which is being worked on at the moment, consideration and decisions around the reinstatement of some form of group life assurance in conjunction with other employee benefits. In terms of priority 3, financial sustainability, that's covered by paragraphs 26 to 29 and advises of the update to workforce profile forms, which services have been completing, cross-cutting reviews that have been ongoing, monitoring of vacancies and temporary arrangements through the workforce review group, and updated information on the intranet regarding service redesign. And actions for the year ahead are covered by paragraphs 30 to 32 and include the process for initial work that services are undertaking on their service reviews to be reviewed by the Workforce Strategy Board, and to look at the development of best practice for how we use our casual and bank staff. In terms of priority 4, investing in future skills of our workforce, that's covered by paragraphs 33 to 36 and includes details of the FaceTime podcast, coaching and mentoring framework, and the Council's mediation process. And actions for the year ahead are covered by paragraphs 37 to 40 and includes the development of a structured career planning process linked to our succession planning framework, and the development of workforce planning sessions for managers and the development of a workforce planning toolkit, which will support managers and help us to link and embed workforce planning into service improvement plans. Moving on to priority 5, employee engagement and recognition is covered by paragraphs 41 to 43 and gives details of the employee survey that was carried out late last year, the forums that have been established or developed, and the updated employee awards ceremony, which took place in the spring this year. And then actions for the year ahead are covered by paragraphs 44 to 46 and include how we communicate the service actions as a result of the feedback from the workforce survey, updated terms of reference for our collective bargaining group to include how we engage regarding service redesign with trade unions, as well as a review of the terms of reference for the teachers consultative group. And we'll also be looking at setting up a range of employee and elected member think tanks to develop services, policies and ways of working in the future. In terms of priority 6, supporting attendance and employee wellbeing, that's covered by paragraphs 47 to 50 and outlines the wellbeing action plan, which replaced the stress at work standard. A review of absence reporting, employee benefits, and a review of the supporting attendance and wellbeing at work. Actions for the year ahead are covered by paragraphs 51 and 52 and include establishing the work remit of the supporting attendance and wellbeing at work team and the review of the supporting attendance at work policy to ensure it continues to be fit for purpose. Moving on to paragraphs 53 to 56, this highlights the audit Scotland had recently completed a full audit of our workforce strategy and the arrangements that we have in place as a result of the workforce strategy, and a full report of their findings and recommendations was reported at governance scrutiny meeting recently, and actions from that report will be incorporated into our plans for the year ahead. In terms of implications from this report, these are covered from paragraphs 57 onwards and include that we have had detailed discussions with both our local government trade unions and teaching trade unions on our plans, and they are included in our agenda for each meeting. The Equality and Fairer Scotland duty implications covered at paragraph 60 detail that while an equality impact assessment's not been undertaken for this review, any specific work in relation to actions are subject to an equality impact assessment. In relation to community wealth building implications, these are detailed at paragraph 61 and highlights that although there are no direct community wealth building implications from this report, some of the actions within the workforce strategy around supporting and developing our younger workforce, as well as our financial sustainability actions, may have implications in the future. And I said a copy of the Workforce Strategy Action Plan update is attached as Appendix 1, and also a copy of the draft anti-racism statement is attached as Appendix 2. And from that then, just going back to paragraph 2 around the recommendations as a result of this report, we are hoping that you note the progress of the action plan update, note the initial development of actions for the autumn 24, spring of 25 and support their further development, and note the risks and actions of the Audit Scotland report of May 2024 and agree a revised and council-wide anti-racism statement. And that's me, thank you. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much. Another really good report. Can maybe mention just myself, just a couple of the priorities. First of all, priority 1, invest in young people, and that follows on from tackling child poverty. The best way out of poverty is to make sure people get a proper foot in the job ladder. And I think, you know, the decision we took, 4 years ago to create a number of apprenticeships, it's great to see that happening now, and just seeing the fruits of that, to see, you know, that young people have gained, you know, hundreds of young people in our community. Research due to an intervention that we took and continue to take are benefiting from that, and their families and the communities are benefiting from that too. So it's quite good to see, when a good decision's paying off and affecting the life of people around us. And also just in that, maybe mention priority 6 as well, in terms of the support attendance and employee wellbeing. And I think this is really good to think. Staff absenteeism is a big concern for us, particularly as resources are becoming thinner, and we need to address that. And we do need to think a wee bit differently, not just about punitive action we can take, but how we can support our employees through difficult circumstances, because we see things like stress and other issues are some of it's related to work, and some of it's related to circumstances in their home, and it's great to see that that's supported throughout this. So that's 2 aspects of the paper I'm really pleased to see, and I would commend it. Anyone else? Any comments, Barry?
Thank you, Leader. Just a couple of questions, if you don't mind. First of all, on page 74, paragraph 44, where we've got actions for the year ahead. That paragraph there, in terms of need to communicate actions taken by services in response to employee survey. Just wonder, are we actually reporting back the actions taken? It's a common theme, I think, probably across many employers, and that people maybe feel they don't always hear back. Just if you can maybe clarify that. In relation to priority 6, that's paragraph 49. Obviously, we've got the VivUp app, or VivUp app, I don't know how you pronounce it. I just want to know if we have any kind of indication of the percentage of staff, utilising that. Is that, what's the uptake like? The kind of last question goes on to page 81, and that is in terms of the progress to July 2024. We see identify and implement appropriate server to upload and present data in real time. Costs have been identified and work with IT is due to start. So this might be something that IT can come back on there. That we talk about an in-house SQL server. Now, I'm led to believe this is quite an expensive thing to do, and just wondered, is this absolutely what we need to do, or is there another way, around it? My very last question, I promise, which is on page 83 at 4.7, that we're obviously doing some work to develop Learn Pro, but if it's, Learn Pro seems to be the go-to, and we refer to it all the time as the go-to. If it's, what if it's so good, why we haven't upgraded it, what we having to do to roll out here? Just a few questions, please. Thanks.
Barry, yeah. I'll pass this over. I'm no fair with the VivUp app myself, I've got to admit that, but I'd be interested to hear about it. So, who's...
Yep, I can try and answer some, and maybe Amanda can answer some. So, in terms of the survey, we are currently collating. So we had to disseminate individual responses for each service, and those went out to all services to review and provide actions. So we're currently now finalising what those actions look like, and we'll be publicising them on the council's intranet soon. Hopefully in the next couple of weeks those will be out. In relation to the SQL server that you spoke about, yes, it is expensive. So as a result of that, in conjunction with our colleagues within finance and ICT, we're actually building an in-house SQL server. So we've just started work on that. So hopefully in the spring we'll have that finalised and up and running. And maybe for VivUp, I don't know the percentage uptake.
Through you, Chair. I don't have the exact percentages here at this moment in time, but what we have noticed is a significant uptake, but for different reasons and for different elements. So it's a 365 days a year. It's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that folk can access. We're finding quite a lot of folk are accessing just for information, but we're also getting people that are coming forward for the on the phone, on the line chats, but then also following up. But what I can do is we get the statistics quarterly, and I can share that with members out with this meeting if that's helpful.
Maureen?
It's just to pick up again, and I am, I'm admitting here that this is something that my knowledge of is exceedingly thin on the ground, but I hear that we are able to develop this SQL server as an in-house project. Again, like my colleague, I'm advised that this is actually quite a technical thing. So there are two ways of looking at this. Either we are doing something which is fantastic, that we have got the ability to do this in-house as you've described to us, or the other aspect of that is, are we really on the edge of what is a wise thing to be doing something as technical as this in-house? And, if I can just give myself the disclaimer that this is not an area that I have any expertise in, but I think it's appropriate to just be asking those questions and just asking for some absolute reassurances. Thank you.
Thanks, Maureen. Yeah, I share that. Amanda?
Through you, Chair, I don't have the technical expertise either, I would profess, but we have been scoping this work out for well over a year now, and we are confident with our colleagues in IT that they do have the skills and the ability to undertake this work, and therefore save us the money for going external, but give us the platform that we need to get the real-time management information. So within our IT colleagues, they have those skills and ability, and it's all been mapped out.
Round that one up, Amanda, and thank you for that, is just an approximation of the cost savings for us if we're actually able to have the expertise to do this in-house as opposed to going out to commission the development of this work elsewhere.
So the cost that we got, the initial cost, and then there would be ongoing maintenance, was £55,000 to buy the SQL server, and then there was a maintenance cost which was significantly less, but it was round about the region of £5,000 a year.
Thanks. Anyone else? No. Okay, can we go to recommendations? Can we agree the recommendations? Thank you. And go to our final item, and that is non-statutory subsidised school transport. And Jane Corrie and Laura Campbell will do this report. Who's starting? I don't know. Laura.
Thank you, Chair. So the report provides an update on further works that have been carried out in relation to the non-statutory subsidised school transport and seeks approval to withdraw the service. Recommendations are within paragraph 2. Notes the previous report from March are noted within paragraphs 3 through 6. The full results of the pilot are noted within paragraphs 7 through 21. Table 1 gives the current numbers of young people accessing the direct service from the north of Kilmarnock, which indicates that in week 2 and week 3, when senior phase pupils had returned, the on-thank route had an uptake of around 55%, and the route from South Craig's averaging around 70% uptake. And the numbers that did take on the uptake were lower than we anticipated. Table 2 provides the breakdown of the young people travelling from the south of Kilmarnock. This data was much harder to interpret as it takes into account any young person using their NEC card. It indicates that while there was an increase in numbers during the pilot, the comparison to March, where there was only an additional 22 more young people using their card during the pilot. Paragraphs 20 and 21 note the service into Robert Burns Academy is having no issues on the public routes. Active travel improvements for the exercise, which was undertaken with elected members, young people from Kilmarnock Academy, Grange Academy and Robert Burns Academy, are noted within paragraphs 22 and 23. And I would like to take this point just to thank the elected members that took part, and Linda, the young people that took part in the exercise to do those walking routes. Appendix 1 notes the Kilmarnock Infinity Loop project, which will assist with the active travel routes in relation to the school estate.
the results of the consultation and engagement with parents, carers and young people after the pilot are contained within paragraphs 28 through 45, where it notes that there were 218 respondents, with the majority of these from St Joseph's and Kilmarnock Academy areas. Main points that the respondents from the north of Kilmarnock noted were that the direct service worked well, but had concerns if Stagecoach would continue the service. Parents from the south of Kilmarnock expressed concerns around the capacity on the local services and the accuracy of the pilot due to the north receiving a direct service. Concerns were noted about the antisocial behaviours in the Kilmarnock area. However, it should also be noted that there is no supervision on the current non-statutory subsidised school transport. Respondents from Logan and Lugar expressed concerns about the timing of the local service and concerns on the high volumes of HGVs on the active travel routes. There were differences of opinion between the parents and the young people on how they would travel should the service be withdrawn, with parents noting that the pilot service or that they would drive their children to school being the first two options, and the young people noting that the service bus or active travel would be their top two. The national position is noted within paragraphs 50 through 54, and Appendix 2 gives the full list of the free school transport entitlement across other local authorities. The cost of supplying the service are within paragraphs 55 through 58, which notes that there is a net cost to the council of 0.605 million to supply the service for the current academic year, with a predicted variance of 1.112 million over budget for all school transport. Paragraphs 59 through 64 give the conclusion that notes that by working in collaboration with the Kilmarnock Infinity Loop project to significantly improve the active travel routes across the area, the decrease in the numbers accessing the service since the implementation of the under-22 card and Stagecoach deeming the pilot routes not to be of commercial viability, but are willing to enhance their existing local routes to support. The options of the service being supplied by a private company or community partner have also been exhausted, and the cost of this service still exceeds the income. It is recommended that the non-statutory school transport would be withdrawn from Friday the 4th of April 2025 to coincide with the Easter holidays. Happy to take any questions.
Thanks very much. I know there's been a considerable amount of work been done in this from both the parents and the children and and elected members right across the council, because it's an important issue for us in terms of road safety and safe walking routes. Before I'll bring in Councillor Cowan and I'll bring in Councillor Douglas just for comments. First of all, one of the things that I was going to ask, just to while we're having a bit of discussion, is just in terms of one of the issues that's been raised with parents has been the implementation date, and I'm just wondering, what the difference in cost would be to moving it to August, and if we can do that while we're having a wee discussion, just to see what the costs are. But I don't know if that's going to come into the discussion, but just to give officers a bit of time to consider. Elaine.
Thank you, Chair. I've got three main points to make at this point, and that was one of them. I was surprised to see that date in the report because we had considerable to and fro during the pilot because it was in the exam period. So any movement from that April date, I think, needs to be seriously considered, because the last thing we want to do is any disruption during exam timetable. I think we're all really disappointed that Stagecoach haven't saw it as a viable option, because we thought we had a solution there. I know the report says that the uptake at South Craigs was 70%. And while I appreciate we don't have the commercially sensitive data from Stagecoach, I'm wondering if there has been any discussion around just having that one service in place rather than the whole subsidised service. So has that discussion happened with Stagecoach? And if not, is that maybe something that we could explore in future? Both myself and Councillor McMahon, we took part in all of the walking routes during the summer, during the pilot one, and I've had long conversations with Councillor McMahon about the active travel, and we feel it needs to be determined as safe active travel. So I'm pleased to see that the report has picked up some pinch points in areas. For my own ward area, the lack of the pedestrian crossing on the Glasgow Road is a red line for me. I'm anxious at crossing that road as an adult, so I think we really need that crossing there. And also I know that on the boundary of my ward and Ward 4, part of that same road, there's a missing bit of pavement. So both those items, in my mind, need to be in place before any changes are implemented.
Thanks, Elaine. Barry.
Thank you, Leader. Just wanted to point out, in terms of dates, I share the concerns that Councillor Cowan and Councillor Reid have both indicated. However, I'm really concerned that in the report itself, paragraph 1, we say the withdrawal of the service from Friday 4th of April 2025, be it at paragraph 68, it talks about the withdrawal from June 25. And given the importance of this and the importance to parents and young people, I think we need to make sure that what we're putting out there is the correct dates. And I think I would agree that whatever further discussion is had today, where we need to consider a different date. I don't think that is helpful, the way that the paper has given 2 different dates. In relation to the missing pavement, something I've certainly been talking about for a long time, and I know when it was in Ward 2 that previous, and Councillor Mackay as well, had raised the issue of the eastern side of Glasgow Road. And certainly I was pleased to walk recently with the head of ARA in that regard, and I have had assurances that that will be implemented, and hopefully this year, which would be really good to see. It is important, that is crucial, particularly if there is future house building, as has already been proposed in the east side of Glasgow Road, that gap is completed. 30 years ago, yes, it was in the countryside. Today, it's very much in the urban heart of the town, and it's key and absolutely making sure those crossings. Because right now, if you live in Craighall Bank, you need to come out, cross at Hillcrest, at South Craigs, cross to Glasgow Road to then effectively cross again at the Old Llewellyn Creamery at the Walden Drive. We know Glasgow Road is busy. The volume of traffic is only increasing with the amount of house building in the north of Kilmarnock. I don't think it's safe to have anybody crossing that road twice, children or adults, to be honest. And even when I was out with the head of roads, having crossed it ourselves, you take your life in your hand, despite the pedestrian island. So I think, first of all, dates. A paper has gone out there, it's in the public domain with 2 different dates. I think that's confusing. And just to make sure we've got some clarity around exactly when the improvements that have been long sought can be introduced, whether or not supporting what's proposed here. I think, notwithstanding that, this works need to be done. Thanks.
Thanks, you're absolutely right. Just we need clarity in terms of dates, but I think there's a decision to be taken, on the whether we leave it to August or April. But we'll have that just once we. I think there's someone else. Jackie Livingston. Jackie.
Right, I'd just like to reiterate what both Councillor Douglas and Councillor Cowan said about the confusion of dates and the roadworks. Can we have today a guarantee of the date of when the roadworks in Glasgow Road will be completed by? Because getting told that it will be done by the end of the financial year isn't good enough when one date the paper says 4th of April, another date says June. We don't know what's going to happen. And right now, it's a nightmare out there in Glasgow Road. I can watch the children trying to cross the road, and there's roadworks at the moment, and they're taking their life in their hands. So we need clarification, not in 2 or 3 weeks' time or a month's time. We need to know now when the roadworks are being done, because if they're planned, sure there's a date in their diary. Thanks.
Thanks, Jackie. Jane or Laura.
So I'll hand over to Jane for the clarification on the Glasgow Road and the pavements. The difference in the dates, that's my error. It should have said April on both accounts. That is absolutely my error. However, there is movement on that date, but there is a financial implication to it. So that's obviously for Cabinet to agree if they want that date moved. And I'll hand over to Jane for the Glasgow Road.
Yeah, so just to clarify, firstly, the financial implication, there'd be it would be a savings shortfall, or a shortfall in the savings of 605 would be reduced by around 150,000 if we moved the date to June. just for clarity on that. With regards to the Glasgow roadworks, designs are being finalised both for the missing section of pavement and for the pedestrian crossing on Glasgow Road, and will be issued to tender soon, with a view to being on site either pre-Christmas or very early in the new year, depending on the successful contractors' availability. So you have my guarantee that those works will be finished by the 31st of March. I think that was all the points.
Okay. So if we moved it, the implementation date to start the school year, we're a shortfall of 150 from the same, but the same is going to be recurring. So that's an important thing. And the earliest you could address the issue of the Glasgow Road crossing, could that be brought forward if Cabinet were minded to see it as a priority?
Yeah, we have budget for that this financial year, so we can move as quick as we can. The designs, as I say, are being finalised and they will go out to tender very soon. We expect to be on site pre-Christmas, and as I say, early New Year at the latest, and we'll put a push on that to try and bring that forward as much as we can.
So that would hopefully before the implementation date. That's it will be before the implementation date. Jim, sorry, and Elaine. And
thanks, Leader. Thanks for bringing the paper. It's been a long consultation. I'd like to thank at this time all the staff at ARA and education, the parents of carers, children, and the elected members at this stage that has participated in all this. It's a thing that we never really wanted to do, is remove the non-subsidised transport. However, we know the wider financial implications that's burdened upon the council just now. I think it's really important that we start referring to active travel as safe active travel, and it should be known for here on in that all active travel routes are safe. I know Councillor Barton has concerns about certain areas that he knows children are going to use and they're going to be shortcuts. We need to make sure that they are safe, i.e. not just by barriers or the construction, but also lit as well, to make sure that when children are going to and from school in the winter months, that they are lit up. But given the concerns around about the works in the Glasgow Road, and we're also looking at what's at Logan as well, make sure they are done. However, given the assurances that they will be done, if they are not done, then we would need to extend the service beyond the term. So it's really important that these crossings, safe crossings, are in place. Given that, I'd be content with the suggestion that we move the date for April, given that course, and I would move, Leader, that we move that date to the end of June and for the start of the next term. And that's in recommendation 4.
Okay, Elaine, Councillor Barton.
Thanks, Chair. Councillor McMahon picked up one of the points I was going to suggest amending recommendation 4 as well, to give that further reassurance about the roadworks being in place, and also just to remind about my earlier question about the 70% uptake at South Creeks. Can we have any further dialogue with Stagecoach if that has not already previously taken place?
Elaine. Yeah.
So apologies, Councillor Cowan, I missed that point. So we have had conversation with Stagecoach about that route, but we will go back and have a further conversation. They have said it's not commercially viable for them. However, given the concerns that have been raised, I'm quite happy to take that back and have those conversations to see if there is anything that can be done. But again, it'll be up to Stagecoach whether they make that decision.
Okay, I mean, I think we'd all share that, ambition, that we reconsider. It seems to make sense. I don't understand why the decision, but anyway. Councillor Barton, Graham.
Yep. I'd asked the question offline of Laura round about Aslos Road. It's one of the routes identified by the parent council that it's a possible shortcut diverting away from the safe active travel routes. Now, from Forest Grove down to the Dean Castle is a 60 mile per hour zone. Now, Laura has kindly reassured me that they're going to look at options to reduce that speed limit there. And I thank her for that commitment. So I just wanted to highlight the fact you brought that up, Jim. Thanks.
Barry?
Thanks. Just, I think I welcome what Councillor Barton has said, and I think that not just changing the speed limit, it has to be something, because traffic, as we know, don't always stick to the speed limit. Think of Bonnet Road in your own ward, leader, where there's no houses and they get that stretch of road where there's nobody actively fronting on it. You see people doing 40, 50 mile an hour frequently on it. So it's important that we make sure that there's footpaths as well lit, to make sure that impression is always that it's in the urban area, and actually you need to reduce your speed. So I think, notwithstanding the outcome of any of this today, these are all what's that are absolutely required. And if we are actively trying to encourage people to take safe walking routes, and the deputy leader's right to say this is going to be safe, active travel routes, then we know we've got to go where the kids are going to go, and the young people are going to take that route down at Aslos without a doubt.
Okay, I think we'll seek assurance there and do what we can there. I think it's partly right, particularly around about Kilmarnock. I know that, you know, particularly where there's been new build, that, you know, it's we need to address some of the kind of restrictions around about these areas in terms of speed limits, as you raised, Barry. I think, Jim, you proposed in terms of the implementation date by, was it June or August, what we're saying?
It would be the end of term, June, start with the new term. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, John, so where is John?
Hello.
Yeah. Aye, give them up, Fajin.
I just wondered, you know, we can't presume that everyone's going to walk. Quite a lot of children might cycle, you know, more and more as time goes by. Do we have adequate sort of, you know, cycle parking and lockable cycle parking at most of the schools now? Because you'd imagine once they've been walking for a while, they could see the benefits of cycling to school quicker. My other question was, since, you know, we're obviously a big authority with big buying power, if we also looked into any possibility of, you know, obtaining, you know, very good lightweight rainproof jackets and bits and pieces and things like that could be handy for, you know, walking to school, that maybe, you know, we don't make any loss on, but, you know, if we offered them out to the children at cost, because we might be able to buy some, you know, really good fit for purpose stuff, you know, from suppliers in bulk, and, you know, and offer it out. I don't know whether they take it or not. People are so individual with fashions today, but, you know, the old Scottish weather is bound to have plenty of rain at certain times. So some of these sort of very lightweight, very long, you know, waterproof jackets that you see all the people in New York wearing, you know, lots. I've got one for dog walking. It's, you know, very good. It's very breathable and, you know, whatnot. So I just wondered if we'd made any sort of thoughts of that sort of thing. Thank you.
Thanks, John. No, I think that's something worth considering. Yeah, and Linda, you put your hand up yet?
Yeah, thanks, Councillor McFadden. So I'll take that in two parts. So, yep, most of the schools absolutely have dedicated cycle facilities or shelters, and where that's not the case, they make arrangements for the young people to safely store their bikes. So great joined up work there with our FPM colleagues as well. So again, in that particular piece, that I would say that's there in the majority, but where it's not there, there's generally other arrangements for young people who scoot or bike to school in line with our active travel plans. On the second front, Councillor McFadden, from a primary school perspective, most offer a branded rain jacket, but again, in terms of keeping with the cost of living, etc., we leave that choice with parents as to whether they opt for the branded piece in terms of that. And obviously, again, Councillor McFadden, proud as a council in terms of the way we deliver on the clothing grant piece. In respect of secondary, I think given the age and stage of pupils, much more likely to want to have their own thing in terms of that particular piece in respect of waterproof clothing. But certainly, you know, the schools could look at that if it was something that they wanted to. But given the fashion conscious teenagers that we've got out there. Whilst I think that the sentiment's absolutely appropriate and we don't want anyone getting wet on their walk to school, I think at the secondary piece, we're probably not likely to go down that kind of route, but certainly at primary, a lot of the primaries have really nice branded cagoules, etc. I think that you're describing there. So no, thanks for that, Councillor McFadden.
Thanks, Linda. I think the only way we had get my primary sevens to wear a poncho is to get the Fitba Club to manufacture one, and maybe that's an idea for Billy Bowie and others. Elaine and Maureen. Elaine.
Thank you, Chair. Councillor McFadden opened some interesting discussion points there, which we actually have had when we've been talking about the Infinity Loop programme. Obviously, that only focuses on the Kilmarnock schools, but the first phase, the first section of Infinity Loop does take into account the Glasgow Road area and the areas that we're talking about. So looking at facilities at schools with the storage of the cycles, lockers and things like that, is there any way we can upgrade any of the existing facilities that are there? So I think that may be somewhere that we should prioritise it in those conversations.
No, it's a valid, and what we've got at different schools is there's a variation there, and we want to make sure we've got the best possible for in all our schools. I think that's a valid point. Maureen.
Please, I'm going back in time. We are here, we're discussing this today, and it's appropriate that I have some comments to make on it. We are discussing it because of the successful campaign that was mounted, that I was very vocal and active part of in 2012. And at that point, we got to this idea of non-statutory subsidised school transport because we were responding to the concerns that we had, and we were responding to, so how do we actually mitigate against these concerns? Today, I'm hearing more and more about how we're actually going to put mitigations in. I'm hearing that what we are doing is we are actually branding this as safe, active travel. I have to say, merely putting the word safe in front of active travel does not, in my experience, make a blinking bit of difference as to whether or not it is actually going to be safe or not. The issue is that active travel over this period of walking area cannot ever be something that we can guarantee to be safe. We certainly cannot do that. That was something that were the concerns, that were the issues that were raised in 2012. I see nothing now which has actually changed that. I hear layer and layer and layer of mitigations that are being put in. Many of those are welcome. Many of those are environmental changes, which certainly will be of benefit and longer term benefit to the overall community and life of the community. However, it certainly doesn't answer the fundamental issues raised in 2012. Now, if we consider what the expansion has been since 2012 in terms of housing within the north of Kilmarnock, which is welcomed, but we have seen an increase in housing. We know that there is an increase in housing planned over that period of time. We know as soon as we have an increase in housing, what we actually have is we therefore have more cars. More cars equals more opportunities for something that we would not want to have happen to go wrong at that particular time. I am not thinking that in 2024, with the increase in the growth of housing within that area, more housing equals more cars, more cars equal more opportunities for something to go wrong. I am very, very happy about all of the work that has been done, of the exploration of all of this. But I have to say, I still remain of the view that I was when I campaigned in 2012. And what have we done as an organisation since then? Arguably, we have, and for very good reasons, but it is the reality, and that is that we have ensured, in terms of the development of the area of the new school and the withdrawal of what could potentially have been an alternative choice. That isn't something that exists any longer. So arguably, you could make the debate, which is that actually we have exacerbated a set of circumstances. I do understand the concerns that are expressed by parents in 2012. Do I consider that in 2024 that those concerns are any less valid? And I have to say, I'm afraid I don't. And I know the financial position that the council is in. However, I have to say that this is something, and the proposals here that we have to withdraw the removal of the non-statutory subsidised school transport service is not something. It didn't carry my support in 2012, and I'm afraid it does not carry my support in 2024.
Thanks, Gab. Bring in Councillor McMahon.
Thanks, Leader. I think I really must pick up on the comment. This is not the case of just putting a word in front of active travel, Councillor Mackay. This is the half analysis and costs and surveys and consultations that have went on for months. I certainly agree with the increase of housing. You will see potential increase in cars on the road, but I am assured that we will make these routes as safe as possible to the school. Had we followed the route of one of our neighbouring authorities, then I could have saw the concerns that could be raised, because they certainly didn't go down the journey that we have went down with this. So again, I'll refer back to the circumstances. I know this and the issues that you raised back in 2012, and you're still raising those concerns in 2024. I will remind members again that this is a non-statutory service where we find the challenges increasingly difficult month on month, and particularly going forward year on year. Again, I'll emphasise this was not something and a decision or an option that came lightly to us, but it's something we really must consider. I take on board your concerns, Councillor Mackay, but I'll emphasise again, this is not just a case of putting a word in front of active travel. This is putting actions behind it.
Thanks. I mean, we have moved on considerably from 2012, and notwithstanding, I mean, we hear every year at the climate change conference, schools are making loads of new initiatives to get more, walking to the moon and all the rest that we hear. There is a demand there from children, the pupils and the parents, to have safe, active travel to help. We can all remember, the way back 10 years ago, I can certainly remember all the kind of gas guzzlers cars at the school gates, and the damage that was doing to the health and safety at that time. And I think there's a demand there for safe, active travel that's coming from the ground up, coming from the pupils and the parent bodies themselves, that we need to provide for. Okay, there's absolutely there's savings here to be made, but I think it's not just as simple as that. I think we've got to support active travel where we can, and certainly there's been a lot of efforts in the past 10 years and within this paper today to make sure that's the case. Councillor Cowan.
Thank you, Chair, and I completely echo Deputy Leader's comments that this is not a branding exercise. We're putting in real investment in here to make these routes as safe as they possibly can for everyone in the community. I wasn't here in 2012, so I can't comment on that, but what I can say, one of the differences since then is that children now have the free bus travel. So that's a material difference from 2012.
Thanks. Okay, given us a fair hearing, certainly Councillor McMahon, I'll be happy to second Councillor McMahon's proposal. Do you have any other proposals? Maureen, can you put on your mic, please?
Certainly. Clearly, my position is to maintain the non-statutory subsidised school transport service.
Seconded by Councillor Douglas. Okay, we'll just go straight to the vote.
Yep, thanks, Chair. So because we do have some members online, we'll do the vote by calling out the names, and if you can just indicate whether you are voting for the motion, which is by Councillor McMahon and seconded by Councillor Reid, or for the amendment by Councillor Mackay and seconded by Councillor Douglas. So Councillor Reid.
Or Councillor McMahon's motion.
Motion. Thanks. Sorry. Councillor McMahon.
A motion.
Councillor McFadden. Councillor McFadden, can you hear us? Come back to Councillor McFadden. Councillor Cowan.
Motion.
Councillor Mackay.
Amendment.
Councillor Linton.
For the motion.
Councillor Barton.
The motion.
Councillor Douglas.
Amendment.
Councillor Ingram. Councillor Maitland.
For the motion.
Councillor McFadden, can you hear us?
Yes, I have.
So can you indicate if you're voting for the motion or the amendment?
For the motion.
The motion. Thanks. And we also have our non-elected members. So we have Harriet for the motion or the amendment.
Can you just clarify the amendment again, please?
Yeah, the amendment by Councillor Mackay is that not to withdraw the non-statutory subsidised transport, and the motion is that it would be removed.
And would it be removed from the June, the end of June?
Yes.
In the motion. Thank
the
you.
motion, thank you. Babs Mowat.
I said.
Babs, can you indicate if you're voting for the motion or for the amendment? You need to put your mic on, Babs.
You put your mic on, Babs. That's it.
The amendment.
Thank you. Dr. Lewis.
I'll abstain on this.
Oh, abstain. Thank you. Hazel Malacotti.
Motion.
Thank you. And Jackie Livingston.
Motion.
Motion. Thank you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, 3. Thanks, Chair. I can confirm that the motion has been carried by 11 votes to 3. Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks very much. Okay, that concludes matters for today, and that's it. Yeah. Okay, thank you all for your attendance.
So, Leader, you've also got sounding board, which is scheduled for 12. Do you want to wait to 12? Do you want
No,
to start
half-
at half 11?
Half 11.
Half 11.
Councillor McFadden, are you able to contact Councillor Watts and make sure that he can join at 11:30 for sounding board?